I still think about him. Every time I hear a child laugh or see a swing hanging on a quiet porch, I think of Turner, because for 79 days, a set of security cameras silently documented the slow, brutal destruction of a little boy. No one stopped it. No one intervened. The footage was there. Every scream, every bruise, every moment of his pain recorded, archived, stored. But no one was watching. A system that should have protected him didn't. A family that once overflowed with love fell silent. And a father who was once his son's whole world chose to look away. This is the story of Turner Wayne Simpkins, a boy who had every chance to grow up safe, but was left alone with a person who should never have been near him. And unlike other tragedies, this one left behind proof, because every moment was captured, every day, for 79 days. If you're with me as I tell this story, I'd love to know. What time of day are you watching this video? Leave a comment below. It helps us share these stories at the right time and make sure they're seen. And if this story matters to you, hit the like button. It's one small way to help stories like Turner's reach someone who might need to hear them. He was born on June 18, 2018, in a Nashville hospital. From the very beginning, Turner Simpkins was surrounded by love. His parents, Austin Simpkins and Sierra Ford, were young, but they adored him. Family photos from those early years are filled with joy. Turner had soft blonde hair, sparkling blue eyes, and a laugh that could fill a room. They lived in a quiet community in Chapmansboro, Tennessee, on Poplar Ridge Road. A little house, a big yard, and more love than some people feel in a lifetime. Turner wasn't an only child. He had an older brother, Maverick, who was his best friend. The two of them were inseparable. They played together, slept side by side, comforted each other when things felt scary. Maverick was the one Turner ran to when he needed reassurance, his shield, his hero. In the backyard, their dad had hung swings just for them. They'd spend hours out there, singing Disney songs, pretending to be superheroes. Turner loved Batman, Catboy, Sonic, and Mickey Mouse. His room was full of figurines, costumes, bright colors, and joy. But more than anything, Turner was a daddy's boy. He looked at Austin like he hung the moon. They fished together, swam in the pool, went to the beach on family vacations. Austin carried him on his shoulders. He made him laugh like no one else could. There was a dog too, Austin's, and it became Turner's little sidekick. Wherever the family went, Turner went. And he always felt safe. You could see it in the way he ran toward his dad, arms wide open, no hesitation, no fear. His mom, Sierra, remained part of his life even after she and Austin separated. Weekends with her were filled with hugs and outings, and Turner never stopped being her baby. Somewhere in early 2022, everything changed. A woman came into Austin's life, and, slowly, into Turner's. Her name was Shannon Lee Elliott. She was 24 years old, from Springfield, Tennessee. At first, she seemed ordinary. Just another young woman trying to start over. She got a job at a small local manufacturing company. She probably never noticed the cameras mounted inside. That would prove to be her biggest mistake. Because those silent, ever-recording security cameras would soon capture something no one should ever have to see. They would become the key to uncovering one of the most horrific cases of child abuse Tennessee had ever witnessed. And Shannon? She had no idea that everything she was doing was being recorded. When Shannon moved into the home on Poplar Ridge Road, 5-year-old Turner welcomed her the way he had been raised to greet adults, with kindness, trust, and openness. But soon, something shifted. Of all the children in the house, it was Turner she targeted. Not with discipline, with cruelty. Perhaps it was the bond he shared with his father that provoked her. Perhaps something in his innocence stirred something darker in her. Whatever the reason, she chose him. Over time, Turner began to change. His energy dulled. He smiled less. Sometimes he flinched at small movements. Bruises appeared, but there was always an excuse. He tripped. He fell. He bumped into something while playing. Shannon always had a quick answer. And Austin, the father who once carried his son on his shoulders and called him his best friend, accepted those answers. In early May 2023, Shannon began taking Turner with her to work. She said it was so he wouldn't be left home alone. But in truth, it removed the final layer of protection. At her workplace, behind closed doors, the abuse escalated, and now there were no witnesses. Just Shannon, and a boy who had no way to fight back. It began with slaps, then punches. Security cameras recorded it all. On those tapes, Turner doesn't just cry from pain. He cries from something deeper. The kind of cry that only comes from a child who knows no one is coming, that no one will stop it. At work, there were no big brothers to shield him, no familiar rooms to hide in, no place to escape. Shannon had full control, and she knew it. June 18th, 2023 was Turner's 5th birthday. Shannon made sure he looked uninjured. For that one day, he was returned to his mother Sierra, to laugh and play and be treated with love. No one could see what was breaking inside. To Sierra, that day was filled with joy. To Shannon, it was a victory, a test of how well she could hide the truth. After that, the violence grew darker. In the weeks that followed, the abuse intensified. The punches turned into full-force blows. Shannon kicked Turner so hard he flew into walls. His tiny body, barely 40 pounds, was thrown like a toy. He learned to cover his head with his arms, but his hands couldn't stop an adult's rage. When he cried, she would choke him, sometimes with both hands, sometimes by pressing her palm over his nose and mouth. The more he struggled, the harder she held, until he stopped moving, until his little body went limp. There were bite marks, deep and deliberate, not from impulse, but from intent. The coroner would later describe them as methodical. His neck, his arms, his back, his skin bore the scars of teeth that seemed more animal than human. It wasn't just abuse, it was torment. Turner began to live in silence. He stopped singing his favorite songs, stopped running around in his superhero costume. He tried to become invisible, but nothing he did stopped her. If he made noise, he was punished. If he was too quiet, that too was a reason for pain. Hunger became another weapon. Shannon withheld food as punishment. His small body grew weaker. His immune system faltered. Wounds didn't heal. He went to sleep hungry. He woke up with cramps in his belly and bruises on his skin. And through all of this, his father watched. Austin Simpkins knew. He saw the bruises. He heard the cries. Turner came home with new injuries after every shift with Shannon. At some point, the child must have tried to speak, must have begged for help. But help never came. Austin didn't take his son to a doctor. He didn't call social workers. He didn't pull Turner away from the woman who was destroying him. Instead, he stayed silent. And silence in this case was betrayal. Turner adored his father. In every scream, in every quiet sob, that love was still there. He believed up until the end that his dad would come for him, that someone would stop it. But the days went on, and no one came. By July 19th, 2023, Turner Wayne Simpkins no longer resembled the energetic 5-year-old boy he once was. On the final available surveillance footage from Shannon Elliott's workplace, he can be seen sitting silently in the corner, frail, motionless, and detached from the world around him. His bright blue eyes, once filled with wonder, had dimmed into a hollow stare. After 79 days of near-constant abuse, his spirit seemed gone. Only his fragile body remained, barely holding on. The boy's appearance had changed drastically. His clothes hung loosely over his small frame, concealing the bruises that covered his skin. Though it was the middle of summer in Tennessee, he was dressed in long sleeves and pants, an apparent attempt to hide the trauma he had endured. Shannon Elliott wasn't finished with him. There were still 4 more days to come. Days that would mark the most agonizing and brutal chapter of Turner's short life. What happened between July 19th and July 23rd remains partially unknown. The cameras stopped recording, but the autopsy results would later reveal that the final days were the most violent of all. Turner returned to the house on Poplar Ridge Road, the same home where he once played with his older brother Maverick, swung on the deck, and watched cartoons. But now, that home had become a place of unspeakable suffering. According to the medical examiner, many of the most severe injuries were inflicted during these final hours. The blunt force trauma was so extreme, it caused internal bleeding that ultimately led to Turner's death. His organs had been severely damaged, injuries not caused by accident, but by repeated forceful blows. Austin Simpkins, Turner's father, was home during this time. While it remains legally unproven what he witnessed, one fact is beyond dispute. He took no action to intervene. Turner, barely able to breathe or move, endured his final moments in silence. His small body, racked with pain, could no longer withstand the violence. On July 23, 2023, Turner Wayne Simpkins died. He was 5 years, 1 month, and 5 days old. Emergency responders were called to the property, and what they found would haunt them for the rest of their lives. Turner was discovered lying on the home's side deck. His body was cold, with a recorded temperature of just 86 degrees Fahrenheit. He was covered head to toe in visible injuries, extensive bruising, deep lacerations, open wounds, and bite marks from human teeth. Shannon Elliott immediately claimed that Turner had fallen from a moving vehicle after visiting his mother. But inconsistencies in her story emerged quickly. The child's car seat showed no damage. A drink cup in the holder remained full. Most notably, the types of injuries Turner sustained, human bites, extensive internal damage, were not consistent with any kind of vehicular accident. When the autopsy was performed, even the seasoned medical examiner was shaken. The findings painted a picture of prolonged suffering. Turner had endured weeks of starvation, dehydration, and severe physical abuse. His body bore both fresh and old wounds, signs of a child repeatedly harmed over time. The official cause of death: multiple blunt force injuries combined with malnutrition. The case was immediately classified as homicide. 6 days later, on July 29, 2023, Turner's loved ones gathered for his funeral. His brother Maverick, his parents, grandparents, cousins, all came to say goodbye to the little boy who had once brought so much light into their lives. At that time, few in the family knew the full truth about Shannon Elliott's involvement. The investigation had only begun. Detectives from the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation faced obstacles at every turn. Shannon denied wrongdoing. Austin remained silent. Witnesses gave conflicting accounts. Without clear evidence, the case risked stalling. But then came a turning point, one that no one had anticipated. Investigators discovered a surveillance system at Shannon Elliott's workplace. The cameras had been forgotten, unused, ignored. But they were still functioning. And over 79 days, those cameras had captured everything. Footage retrieved from the hard drives showed Shannon inflicting unimaginable violence on Turner, kicking him, hitting him, throwing him across rooms, biting him, covering his mouth and nose to silence his cries. In 40 out of 79 recorded days, acts of physical abuse were clearly visible. All this occurred while co-workers worked just meters away, unaware or unwilling to intervene. This video evidence would become the cornerstone of the prosecution's case. It was undeniable, time-stamped, and damning. The silent witnesses that hung on the ceiling had spoken, and they told the truth. Every single frame from those 79 days of footage was more than just evidence. It was a silent cry for help, a silent chronicle of a little boy's descent into unthinkable suffering. What Turner Wayne Simpkins endured wasn't just abuse. It was hell, recorded in real time while the world looked the other way. On March 4, 2024, the Cheatham County Grand Jury formally charged 26-year-old Shannon Elliott with 2 counts of first-degree murder and 3 counts of aggravated child abuse. That very evening, she was arrested and booked into the Cheatham County Jail. Her bail was set at $1 million, a figure that couldn't begin to measure the life she had taken. On July 30th, 2024, Shannon stood in court and chose not to contest the charges. When the prosecutors began to read aloud the full scope of what she had done to Turner, the courtroom fell silent, not out of respect, but shock. 20 full minutes of horror. 20 minutes that shattered even those who thought they'd heard everything. Judge David Wolf, a man with decades of courtroom experience, looked visibly shaken. He'd presided over thousands of cases, yet this one left a mark. He sentenced Shannon Elliott to life in prison, with a possibility of parole only after 51 years. But this case had more darkness to uncover.
All right, I believe we have Susan Elliott here now. Is that correct?
Yes, she's here, Judge. It's 2 people, please.
All right, bring her around. Shannon Elliott.
Judge, I've got Shannon Elliott here. She's going to be entering a no contest plea today to count 1, felony murder, aggravated child abuse, a class X felony. For that, she'll receive imprisonment for life with the possibility of parole. Count 2, aggravated child abuse, an A felony, and count 5, which is the same. Both will carry 20 years running concurrent to one another. She'll have jail credit from March 4th to today's date.
All right. Ms. Elliott, if you'll raise your right hand, let's place you under oath. State your full name for the record.
Shannon Lee Elliott.
You can put your hand down now. Ms. Elliott, you're here today charged with a number of very serious crimes, including felony murder, aggravated child abuse, and aggravated child abuse for involving torture. It has been indicated that you have agreed to enter a plea of no contest, but have you seen or been shown a copy of the charges against you and talked it over with your lawyer, and you and Mr. Vaughn discussed the range of punishment you're facing as well as any possible defenses you might have?
Yes, sir.
Well, it's indicated that you want to enter this plea of no contest or nolo contendere. That simply means you understand what the state's evidence is going to be. You're not going to admit you did anything wrong, but you're not going to deny it or contest it. And the state will then tell me what their evidence would be if this case went to trial, and I'll use that factual basis to find you guilty of these charges according to this agreement. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Do you understand, however, that you have a right to plead not guilty to all charges and to have a speedy and public trial by jury?
Yes, sir.
Do you understand that if you went to trial, you would have the right to have a lawyer and to have one appointed, as I've done with a public defender?
Yes, sir.
Do you understand that if you went to trial, you and your lawyer could confront that you would be presumed to be innocent until such time, if ever, the state proved your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt to the satisfaction of all 12 jurors, and their verdict will have to be unanimous before you could be convicted of anything? Do you understand that if you went to trial, you and your lawyer could confront and cross-examine every witness the state called to testify against you, and you could bring in your own witnesses by the use of a subpoena?
Yes, sir.
You understand that you would be presumed to be innocent. At trial, you would not have to testify or prove anything, and no inference of guilt would arise because you did not testify at your own trial. You understand that if you went to trial and you were found guilty of a crime, you could appeal the conviction and the sentence imposed to the Court of Criminal Appeals and have a lawyer appointed to help you with that appeal.
Sir.
Do you understand that by entering this plea of no contest, you're waiving your right to a trial and to an appeal? And all I'm going to do is approve what your lawyer has worked out, which, as was pointed out, means that you will be sentenced on first-degree murder to life in prison with the possibility of parole, and then you will also have 20-year sentences on these other 2 cases as well. You understand that?
Sir.
You understand everything I've explained to you?
Yes, sir.
Do you want to plead no contest according to this agreement and give up your right to a trial and to an appeal?
Yes, sir.
Is your decision to plead no contest today voluntary?
Yes.
Anybody forcing you to do this against your will? You understand that I have to have facts presented to me to be able to enter this plea and find you guilty of these charges.
Yes.
And I want you to have a seat at the table and listen as the state tells me what their evidence would be if this case went to trial. General Willoughby?
Yes, Your Honor. It'll be both myself and General Sagey. If case number 19559 were to proceed to trial, the state would expect to prove the following facts. Around 4:30 on Sunday, July 23rd, law enforcement and medical personnel were dispatched to 1065 Poplar Ridge Road, Chapmansboro, Tennessee, for a non-responsive 5-year-old child. When Cheatham County Sheriff's deputies arrived, they found Turner Simpkins laying on his back outside of the residence on a side deck. Also present were Austin Simpkins, Turner's biological father and legal custodian, and Miss Shannon Elliott, his live-in girlfriend, who was also pregnant with his child. Turner's stomach was distended and dark purple. His face was covered in bruises, scabs. His hands, legs, and arms were also covered with lacerations and extensive bruising. There were bite marks on his hand. Turner Simpkins was not breathing, and his body was limp and lifeless. EMS personnel removed Turner from the deck to the back of an ambulance and removed his clothes. EMS personnel made observations that Turner was cold to the touch and measured 86 degrees body temperature. They observed Turner had bled out internally with large quantities of blood pooling in his testicles. EMS personnel were not able to revive Turner, and no pulse could be established. Turner Simpkins was declared dead at 4:42 p.m. His body was transferred to the medical examiner's office for an autopsy. The TBI conducted and assumed the investigation under Special Agent Kendall Henderson. Shannon Elliott was later interviewed by law enforcement. She told investigators Austin had been out of town all weekend. Shannon Elliott informed law enforcement that she picked up Turner on Saturday, July 22nd, from her mother's house in Springfield, Tennessee. On the way home, they stopped at Sonic to get drinks and closer to home. Turner opened the back door of the Chevy Tahoe driven by Shannon, and he fell out of the car. She explained that Turner unbuckled the car seat, opened the vehicle's back door, and Turner exited the vehicle while it was traveling 25 miles an hour with his car seat. She stated that Turner was not hurt during the event and verbally told her he was okay. The only injuries she noted were 2 scratches on his back and a bruise on his forehead. The defendant did not seek any medical attention for the child and only provided him with Tylenol. It is noted that when law enforcement took the Tahoe as evidence, the child lock on the rear driver's side was on. The car seat was in the vehicle, not scratched or damaged in any way, and there was a Sonic cup in the car seat with liquid still remaining. She further stated Austin Simpkins arrived home later that evening and went to bed. He left the residence in the morning of Sunday, July 23rd, 2023, giving Turner a fist bump before leaving for the day. Ms. Elliott told investigators that Turner got up at 10 o'clock, his normal time, and ate. She said they both had a stomach bug and were throwing up. The defendant told law enforcement Turner was alive and well at 3:45 to 3:50 in the afternoon. This would have been less than an hour before EMS and law enforcement arrived. When asked about his injuries to Turner, she said the following: he got a black eye from falling at her work. The leg scratches were from him riding his bicycle. The hand scratches are from him picking at himself. And she said the bruises on his abdomen were not present Friday or Saturday. Ms. Elliott told investigators that she mainly took care of Turner and that Austin wasn't really around. She describes Turner as the sweetest little boy. When asked how she would punish Turner, the defendant said Turner doesn't get in trouble that often, and his punishment is generally standing in a corner. As the investigation progressed, the Tennessee Highway Patrol CERT team, as well as members of the Cheatham County Sheriff's Office, as well as the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, attempted to do a reenactment of the set of events that Miss Elliott claimed caused his death. They got a body dummy similar in size to him. The company that manufactured the car seat was gracious enough to give, I believe, 2 brand new car seats for this test. And after that test was concluded, it was determined that Miss Elliott's version of events could not be true. Also, during the course of the investigation, law enforcement learned that the defendant was employed at an automotive repair shop and that she often took her own 5-year-old son and the victim, Turner Simpkins, to work with her. The TBI was able to retrieve surveillance video from outside of the employment May 2nd, 2023 through July 19th, 2023. That's a 79-day time period. Multiple special agents and the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation watched every moment of the videos retrieved. The videos revealed that over the course of those dates, when Shannon Elliott was at work with Turner Simpkins, she repeatedly physically abused Turner Simpkins. She did this often with her own child nearby. There's no documented evidence of violence toward her own child. All of the systematic physical abuse on video is directed only at Turner Simpkins. The TBI agents documented every time the defendant struck, hit, punched, slapped, kicked, bit, strangled, or threw Turner Simpkins on video. They also documented the time Turner Simpkins spent in a very small bathroom attached to the office without the lights on, sometimes for hours at a time. General Sagi will now take the rest of the facts. She will start with a very small sample of what these videos show, but it's important to note this is only a couple of days and a couple moments. It's nowhere near the entire 79-day time frame.
Your Honor, of the 79-day time period that the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation watched these videos, they spent 1,896 hours going through those videos. 43 days on the videos show Shannon and Turner. I'm going to read 3 different days of the documented abuse as cataloged by the TBI from watching the actual surveillance videos. On May the 3rd at 1 o'clock, Shannon and Turner remain on the couch. At 1:07:31, Shannon can be seen talking to Turner, and then she throws her phone at him. She drapes his blanket over him. She gets up to work and returns to the couch at 1:14:40. Shannon goes to the restroom, and then Turner uses it just after her. Turner exits the bathroom, and Shannon assists in pulling his pants all the way up. At 1:28:13, Shannon can be seen directing Turner to watch the TV. She hits his knee with her phone and confiscates his books before draping his blanket over him again. She again begins directing him to watch TV at 1:31:33. She positions him on the couch, lifting him up by his upper arms. At 1:32:13, Shannon gets off the couch and hits Turner with the side of her fist in the head on the way back to her desk to answer the phone. She returns to the couch and continues to direct him to watch TV. At 1:32:58, she punches him in the abdomen area. She punches him again in the abdomen area. She punches him in the abdomen once more. Then approximately 5 more times before getting up to answer the phone at 1:33:36. She concludes her phone call and walks back to the couch, aggressively adjusting Turner on the couch before punching him twice in the abdomen with her left hand, and then again with her right hand. She punches him 4 more times with her right hand and then hits him with her left hand. At 1:35:43, Shannon lays back on the couch, lifts her leg into the air, and kicks down on Turner, causing him to bounce upward from the couch. Turner is visibly crying and directed to the corner. Turner is holding his abdomen, and Shannon summons him to her. She speaks to him for a few seconds and directs him back to the corner at 1:36:22. While Turner is in the corner at 1:38:34, she flicks him in the eye. She grabs him by the jaw and brings her face close to his and stays in this position for several seconds before kneeing him in the abdomen, lifting him off the ground by his right arm and putting him on the couch. Turner is crying and writhing in pain. He sits up on the couch at 1:39:36. She begins directing him to watch TV before punching him in the abdomen. She smacks him and begins strangling him. She strangles him for 30 seconds, his face visibly turning red. Once she releases him, she kicks him in the face twice. Turner is now on the opposite end of the couch, and Shannon is in the middle of the couch. She drags him by his legs towards her, blocking him from being seen by the camera. She appears to squeeze his throat with her left hand for several seconds before releasing. Turner is directed to go to the corner again, and as he is getting off the couch, she kicks him in the abdomen with her right leg. Turner is visibly crying very hard and clutching his chest and abdomen. Turner goes into the corner at 1:41:39. At 1:42:50, Shannon grabs Turner by the throat and lifts him off the ground, carrying him into the bathroom in the air. They remain out of sight until Shannon exits the bathroom at 1:49:17. Turner exits the bathroom shortly after pulling his pants up. Shannon positions Turner on the couch. She checks him over, appearing to look for injuries, and goes back into the bathroom. She mops the floor of the bathroom and sits back on the couch at 1:51:15. She talks to Turner briefly before tossing his water bottle at him. At 1:53:35, Shannon directs Turner to watch TV before kicking him in the face. She kicks him in the face again before directing him to get to the corner, kicking him once more on his way off the couch. Shannon gets off the couch at 1:54. She hits Turner in the back of the head with her hand. Shannon changes the TV channel and walks towards her desk, hitting Turner again in the back of his head while his face is in the corner. She turns around and walks back towards him, kneeing while he is still standing in the corner. She knees him again in the abdomen, causing him to fall to the ground on his knees. She knees him again, this time holding him up by his arms. At 1:55:49, Shannon lifts Turner's hoodie to look at his stomach. She directs him back to the couch at 1:56:15. She leans over from the opposite side of the couch and bites his hand. She aggressively turns him inward towards the back of the couch. At 1:57:55, Shannon gets off the couch and readjusts Turner before smacking him. She sits back on the couch and lifts her leg up before kicking him again at 1:59:06. Shannon plays on her phone on the side of the couch, while Turner stays in the corner for the remainder of this 1 hour. That is 1 hour on May the 3rd of his life. On May 19th, from 11:18 a.m. to 11:24 a.m., again, the defendant is with the victim at her place of work, 11:18 a.m. Shannon is motioning for Turner to watch the TV. She then reaches over and pinches his cheeks and shakes his head. She then grabs him around the neck with both hands and jostles his head and neck and is clearly holding tightly. She then balls up her hand and acts as if she's going to hit him. Shannon then grabs Turner by the ears and shakes his head. She then grabs him by the hair and then the neck again. Shannon grabs Turner by the neck with both hands, where her thumbs are on his throat and hands are wrapped around the back. She leans forwards towards him and is clearly squeezing his neck with force. She is even visibly straining as she does this. Shannon grabs Turner by the throat with her right hand and pushes him back against the side cushion, pinning him there. She holds him there for approximately 10 seconds until Turner is able to twist his body out of her hold. At this point, you can clearly see Shannon has Turner by the neck and is squeezing it severely. Immediately after she lets him go, she looks at him as if inspecting his neck. She is touching it gently and motions for Turner to lift his head so she can see his neck better. As soon as Turner exposes his neck, Shannon grabs him again by the neck with her right hand and pushes him against the couch by his neck. She repositions her body so she can get more leverage to push against Turner. Turner is swinging his arms and legs wildly in an attempt to get free, but Shannon is able to maintain her hold on his neck. She holds Turner by the neck for approximately 30 seconds. Her own son is sitting behind Shannon and appears to say something, which prompts Shannon to let go. At 11:20 a.m., Shannon again sits Turner up and motions him to raise his neck as if she is going to look at it. Turner complies and raises his neck. Once she does this, she again immediately violently grabs him by the neck with her right hand. She holds him by the neck very clearly, squeezing and forcing him off of the couch. He's about to fall off the couch, and Shannon lifts him up by the throat and brings him back to her lap. Turner is very clearly struggling and has both hands on Shannon's hands trying to pry it off. She holds him by the neck for approximately 60 seconds until finally releasing. 11:21 a.m. Shannon is continuously motioning for Turner to look at the TV and slaps him on the face with her hand. She then grabs his right hand and appears to bite it. At 11:22, Shannon grabs Turner by the head with both hands and appears to be sticking her thumbs in his ears on both sides and squeezing. She again motions for him to look at the TV and grabs him by the neck with her right hand on the back and her left hand on the front. She holds him there for approximately 15 seconds. 11:23 a.m. Shannon grabs Turner by the head and hair and forces his head up, holding it there for several seconds. She punches Turner in the abdomen 3 times and takes her right elbow and shoves it into his midsection and gets on top of him, pressing all of her body weight down on her elbow and Turner. She then holds Turner by the neck and throat area with her left hand for several seconds and then punches him in the chest area twice and once in the face. 11:23 a.m. Shannon is pointing towards the TV and then hits Turner in the face with her right hand. She then grabs his hand violently by the top of his hair and forces his head back while pointing at the TV. 11:24. While still holding Turner by the hair on the top of his head, Shannon begins to shake Turner's head violently. She releases and then grabs it again, shaking violently. She does this 2 more times. Shannon motions for Turner to get up and to go to the bathroom, which he does with the light off. And Judge, on July the 12th, 2023, just a few days before Turner's death, at about 5 p.m., Shannon is again in her place of business with Turner. Shannon exits the bathroom at 5:02, and her face appears red. She opens the bathroom door again, but it appears that Turner is also opening the door from the inside. Shannon speaks to Turner for a second and appears to be looking for something before she takes a seat on the couch. Turner exits the bathroom at 5:12, and Shannon reaches for his face, grabbing his jaw and neck and looking over him, appearing to check for injuries. She takes his mask off and looks at his hair. At this point, Turner Simpkins is now going to Shannon Elliott's work with her while wearing a mask of a comic book character that covers his face and all of his bruises and injuries. She takes his mask off and looks in his hair, brushing his hair with her fingers. She places his mask over his face and shoves him out of the bathroom doorway. Turner puts his shoes on and stands and waits, adjusting his mask. He goes back into the bathroom where Shannon is at 5:14, and she exits soon after. He exits the bathroom, and his entire face is bruised. She directs him to move his face around, checking again for injuries. He goes back into the bathroom. She walks into the front office, closing things down. Turner exits the bathroom. He grabs his backpack, and Shannon uses a flashlight on her phone to look at his face just before she hits him in the face again with an open hand, knocking off his mask. Turner puts the mask on awkwardly over his face, grabs the blanket he vomited on earlier, and they exit the building on the interior camera. On the exterior camera at that time, Shannon opens the door for Turner and he gets into the car. Shannon has gotten to the driver's seat, but it gets out and opens Turner's door again. While the view is mostly obstructed, it appears that she is hitting him again while he is in the back seat of the car. She gets into the driver's seat and the vehicle exits the parking lot. Your Honor, this is a snapshot of just 2 hours and 6 minutes of Turner Simpkins' life. There are massive amounts of videos where she does this. Based on the video documentation the District Attorney's Office and the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation have looked at, the defendant strangled Turner Simpkins at least 74 times, some of these ending with what appears to be loss of consciousness. Turner is seen on several of the occasions trying to peel the defendant's hands from around his neck while he writhes in pain, fighting to breathe. The defendant physically struck Turner, documented over 1,073 times. An autopsy of Turner Simpkins was performed on July 24, 2023. Lasting 2 days and producing over 800 images of the injuries. Turner Simpkins was born on June the 18th, 2018, and had turned 5 years of age the month before his death. At the time of autopsy, Turner Simpkins weighed 34.5 pounds, and according to the autopsy, quote, appeared younger than the listed age of 5. The medical examiner determined the cause of death to be multiple acute and chronic blunt force injuries and malnutrition. The manner of death was homicide. The circumstances of his death were that he was assaulted by others and neglected care. Specifically, the pathological findings, the injuries to the child, are deep frontal, parietal, and occipital scalp hemorrhage, subdural hemorrhage, subarachnoid hemorrhage, cortical brain contusion, left optic nerve sheath hemorrhage, and left retinal hemorrhage. Hemorrhage and fibrosis involving anterior neck muscles. Hemorrhage and fibrosis of the soft tissue anterior to the cervical vertebrae. Hemorrhage of the posterior neck musculature. Rib fractures and abscesses and formation of the right, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 11th and 12th ribs. Fibrous tissue surrounding the liver, kidney, spleen, pancreas, and intestines. Liver hemorrhage, mesenteric contusions and lacerations, peritonitis, diffuse hemorrhage of the back muscles with intervening fibrous tissue, numerous contusions, abrasions, and scars of the head, neck, chest, abdomen, pelvis, genitalia, upper and lower back extremities. He was underweight and had elevated vitreous urea nitrogen. The medical examiner concluded autopsy findings are significant for blunt force injuries of various stages of healing of the neck, chest, abdomen, pelvis, genitalia, extremities, and back. Body mass index is significant for an underweight male child, 14.8 kilograms. After review of available investigative information, autopsy examination, microscopic analysis, video surveillance review, medical record review, and toxicologic analysis, it is my opinion that Turner Simpkins, a 5-year-old male, died as a result of multiple acute and chronic blunt force injuries and malnutrition. A component of asphyxia, such as manual strangulation and/or suffocation, cannot be ruled out. TBI Special Agent Kendall Henderson met with experts in pediatrics and child abuse who confirmed that the injuries presenting on Turner and his cause of death are consistent with the actions captured on video committed by the defendant Shannon Elliott. The experts discredited the story by the defendant telling law enforcement how Turner Simpkins received his injuries by falling out of a vehicle. They determined the injuries were consistent with child abuse and torture. Therefore, the documented actions of the defendant Shannon Elliott rose to the level of aggravated child abuse of a child under age 8 by physical injury and torture, and the first-degree murder of Turner Simpkins, wherein her abuse and torture caused that death. Your Honor, this did happen in Cheatham County against the peace and dignity of Turner Simpkins in the state of Tennessee.
Ms. Elliott, you've now heard the state's version of the events in this case, and you've heard the recitation of those facts. I'm not asking that you agree with those facts, but do you understand that's what the state's evidence would be if this case went to trial? You still wish to plead no contest? Are you satisfied with your attorney's services? You feel like Mr. Vaughn has done a good job of representing you competently? Mr. Vaughn, do you know of any reasons you should not enter this plea?
No.
Anything further from the state?
Yes, Your Honor, the state would like to thank the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, the Tennessee Highway Patrol, and the Cheatham County Sheriff's Office and EMS, and all of the individuals who assisted on this case.
All right. So noted. Then, based upon the plea of no contest, Ms. Elliott, I find you guilty of count 1, felony murder, sentence you to life in prison. Count 2 of aggravated child abuse of a child under 8 years of age, I sentence you to 20 years in the Tennessee Department of Corrections as a range 1 offender. That's a 100% service before you can be eligible for parole. Count 5, you're found guilty, sentenced to 20 years as a range 1 offender. That will be served as well as 100% release eligibility. These counts are all concurrent with each other, and we know for a fact that you're going to serve 20 years without being able to be released or even consider it normally a life sentence that's even eligible for parole. You have to serve at least 51 years. Based on what I've heard today, it's unlikely, in my opinion, that you're ever going to see the outside based upon what happened to this child. It's one of the most, I've sentenced people to life in prison and other more serious situations in the form of a death penalty case that I've had, and I've never heard more horrific statement of facts in my entire life. Nor have I heard anything that I can imagine what this child went through. So I'm sentencing you to life in prison, and it's my hope that you will serve that for the rest of your life. That is the judgment of the court.
Thank you, Judge.
On January 6, 2025, Turner's own father, 29-year-old Austin Gordon Simpkins, was arrested. Not for what he did, but for what he didn't do. He was charged with child neglect and child abuse after investigators confirmed that he had known about Shannon's violence for months and stayed silent.
Information tonight about a disturbing child abuse case. A man has been charged in his son's death more than a year after it happened.
His girlfriend is already serving prison time in the 5-year-old boy's death. News 2's Alicia Wimberly is at the WKRN.com alert desk with new details. Alicia.
That's right, Bob and Haley. A Cheatham County grand jury indicted Austin Simpkins, the father of Turner Simpkins. Investigators found 33-year-old Shannon Lee Elliott, Austin's girlfriend at the time, severely abused his son, Turner. Police say he died from chronic blunt force trauma and malnourishment back in 2023. Now, their investigation found he was abused for months beforehand. Elliott was found guilty of first-degree murder charges and was sentenced to 51 years in prison last summer. Now, investigators say Austin knew the abuse was happening and never made any attempt to stop it. Austin was arrested and booked into the Cheatham County Jail today. Austin is charged with aggravated child neglect, child abuse, and child neglect endangerment. Bob and Haley.
This wasn't ignorance. It was betrayal. From the man Turner trusted most. Turner was a true daddy's boy. His face lit up when Austin walked into the room. He saw his father as a hero, and that hero turned his back on him. The tragedy of Turner Simpkins exposes more than one evil. It shines a devastating light on every system that failed to act. 79 days of torture, inflicted in a workplace, right under the noses of adults who never asked questions. A healthcare system that missed the signs. A child welfare system in Tennessee that stayed silent. But the deepest failure didn't happen in institutions. It happened at home. Because Turner's father wasn't just negligent, he became complicit in his own son's murder. Turner's name deserves to be remembered not as another headline, but as a symbol. A reminder that monsters don't always hide in shadows. Sometimes they sit at the dinner table. Shannon Elliott got life in prison. Austin Simpkins still awaits trial. But justice for Turner doesn't stop at convictions. It means making sure no other child is left behind in silence. It means seeing what others ignore, speaking up when it's uncomfortable, and protecting children like Turner before it's too late. His story ended on July 23, 2023, but his legacy is just beginning. So share this video. Tell someone. Break the silence. Because here we are in 2025, and children are still dying like we've learned nothing. Still suffering, while adults choose comfort over confrontation. Rest in peace, little Angel Turner. We will not forget you.